And really glad that everybody's here. And certainly just acknowledge that y'all probably took some time out of some things to do tonight to be here. So certainly appreciate that. But know too that the fun things that you might be missing out on tonight will certainly be made up for the fun that you're going to have tonight. And just how fun running's going to be and how good you're going to feel running after tonight too. So to introduce myself and our business, just to get us started. So I'm Trey. I think I've met everybody already. So our business, Northwest Mobile PT, this is our office. We also have an office on the north side of town at North Park. And then we also do mobile visits too. So we'll work with folks in their home or even at their workplace. So just kind of that added convenience for folks if they've got that busy schedule. To get us started, we've got an awesome team. Obviously, I'm going to have some bias, but so we've got a gal named Amber who's our patient care coordinator and just goes above and beyond of just caring for patients. And even if you're not a patient of ours and you just say, man, I could use somebody caring for me, just call her and she'd probably just love you to death. And then Christy here, Christy's our PT and awesome in every kind of way too. So her specialty is in pelvic floor rehab, but also all things orthopedic, all things movement. So think about if you're running and you're leaking, like this is your gal to take care of that problem. And you'll have a ton of fun working with her and being cared for by her too. So we're not your typical PT clinic in a number of ways. We're not your typical PTs in a number of ways. And I say that just so that you can know that we're not just typing in ChatGPT and putting together everything here. But just to give you a little bit of my background, so I've been a PT since 2013, been running a whole lot longer than that. So started running with soccer in high school, kept running in college to just kind of stay in shape, stay healthy, and then still running in my 40s just to do my best to stay a step ahead of my boys and to eat as many of my wife's chocolate chip cookies as I can. And along the way, I've had my own kind of bumps and bruises, my injuries that I'll get into a little bit more. But I've had just it's been a huge part of just health for me, being strong, being active, and keeping up with running. With that, what I love to do, and I think Chrissy would probably say this too, with what we love to do about what we do, is to get people ready for whatever it is that they're getting ready for. So if somebody's getting ready for Bloomsday, somebody's getting ready for being able to run across the yard with their kid, getting ready to climb a big mountain, whatever it is folks are getting ready for, we love to help them with that. And in the process, we love to see their lives get changed as they do that. Just kind of an added bonus for us and an added bonus for them too. Why I love working with runners, it's hard to find somebody that's more motivated than runners from what I've found. And that's coming from a number of patients, but one in particular, this guy's motivation was like dangerously motivated. He had a fracture in his foot, and he came to me and said, do you think that I can still run in my race this weekend? And he said, you could probably just tape it, right? And then I'd be okay running. And it's like, I don't think so. And then I was actually just a student at this time, but just the motivation is through the roof. And that's who we love working with, because that's when a lot of success and a lot of just really fun things happen when people have that high kind of motivation. So I'm not going to talk about me and our business all the time. The big idea, what we're looking at tonight, is just to talk about the how and the why of what we're doing with strength training, talk about the anatomy, and then just kind of get right into the exercises. I've got my cheat sheet here just so that we're not talking way too long about everything else and everybody's looking at their watches thinking like, man, when are we going to get out of here? I haven't even packed my toothbrush and this guy's still talking. But the big idea behind it all is that the more that you understand of what we're doing, the more that you're going to apply it. And vice versa. If you don't understand it, you're not going to apply it. So that's why we're going to talk a little bit more before we get started so that you understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. All right. So just to understand a little bit about y'all just a little bit. How many of you who's been running the longest? Has anybody been running for more than 20 years? Okay, more than 30 years? More than 40 years? All right.
I'm the oldest person in here.
You're the winner. Is anybody? Okay, so we might have a tie then. Is anybody new to running? All right, got a new runner. Sweet. How about anybody running Bloomsday? A few Bloomsday, maybe a new Bloomsday runner?
I might be one. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. How about any other races this summer? Anybody training for anything this summer? We've got the Riverside race. How about you, Cam? Okay. In the area or traveling to do it again? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Sweet. All right. So now changing gears a little bit. How many of you have pain right now? Okay, so some pain. How about pain that limits your activity or limits your movement? Not running. So that's the next question. If you have pain when you're running, okay. Has the pain lasted more than a month, more than a year? Okay. All right. So then lastly, with questions like that, just curious to see where y'all heard about our workshop. So if anybody hear from Fleet Feet? Nope. Social media? Out there outdoors? Okay. And then Park Fit? All right. Cool. All right. To tell you a little bit about our approach here. So it's pretty simple. I like for people to think that I'm really smart. I actually took an astronomy class at Clemson, and the only reason for it is because it's the easiest science class. But I like to use that and tell people that I'm really smart because I took astronomy, and it's kind of like rocket science. But that couldn't be farther from the truth. The reality is that PT, what we're doing, it's really not rocket science. We kind of look at what we do and what we educate our patients to do to understand that it's very understandable for somebody how you take care of your body. And the three simple bases that we cover is motion, strength, and tissue. So motion-wise, you can think, will my ankle bend that way? Will my hip bend that way? Do I have that kind of motion in my hip to be able to run? Strength-wise, will my quad support that movement? Will my calf support that movement? And then tissue, to think, if I put pressure to my quad, does it feel like pressure or does it feel tender? So tying those three bases together is kind of the simplified version of what we're looking to do with our patients. All right. So tonight, primarily, we're looking at strength. With that, three simple cues that I want you to pay attention to with it is once we get into the exercises. So I'll explain kind of the how first and then explain why we want to do that. But first, think we want to press the big toe down. So think about that with the exercises. Second, we want to think that we're going to keep the knees out. And then third, imagine that if somebody's walking around thinking of sneaking up and just giving you a punch to the stomach, that you're keeping your core braced as well. All right? So toe down, knees out, core braced. Have you all heard that before? Okay, so this is just for training though. So don't think like, oh my gosh, how am I going to run like that? Like this is going to be so weird running around. So this is just for the training portion of the strength training side of things. The why for that is that that's the most stable position that we can get into, right? So we want every joint to be as supported as it can, as stable as it can, and that's how we're going to do that. The reason for that is, have y'all heard of the term ground reaction force? Y'all heard of that before? So every time we step, there's a force that comes from the ground and kind of loads our body. That's why if I take a really light step, I don't feel a whole lot with it. If I take a really hard step, I feel that a lot more, right? So when you're running, the ground reaction force is 2 to 4 times your body weight. So to put that in perspective, put your body weight in your head, multiply that by 4, and think, can I move that with my leg, right? Not legs, can I move that with my leg? So we call the running a single leg sport. So it's got to be that one leg to be able to push that movement. 4 times your body weight. Sometimes it can be more, right? So that's a lot. That's a lot of weight. That's a lot of force coming through your leg. Kind of a picture for that. So there's a baseball field close to my house, and we've been climbing the fence and going in and playing recently because there's lots of dog poop in the other part of the park, and who wants to slide into dog poop, right? So I'm at the top of the fence, and it's a higher fence, and I think, do I really want to jump off of this? And all the kids are doing it. I can't be the dad that's like climbing down the other side. And so I jump, and I kind of land. I'm like, I'm glad I don't have to do that every day. But then I watch the other kids do it. Come on in. Watch the other kids do it. And there's a big range of the kids who are jumping off the fence. Some like grunt really loud when they land and just lay on the ground for a little bit. Some of them jump and land and just pop right back up and run off. But think about that, like that's the ground reaction force, just to kind of exaggerate the picture of what the ground reaction force is. And that's what's happening when we're running, right? Not quite the same as, I mean, you have to have a pretty wild gait if you're running like you're jumping off of a fence, but you get the idea, right? All right, so let's keep this rolling here. The idea with it running is that while it's the same idea, it's just that running has a lot more control, just to kind of tie it back to running. And that's why runners have to be strong. And it's not just that runners have to be strong, everybody's got to be strong, right? So we're definitely not just picking on runners with their skinny runner arms, but for everybody that we work with, they have to be stronger. And that's even with a professional athlete that we've worked with, that if that guy needs to get stronger and benefits by getting stronger, most of y'all look kind of like me, like we're kind of normal people, except for John, maybe. We're all kind of normal people. And so if the professional athlete has a chink in his armor, then the rest of us do too. And so we can all benefit from being stronger, and especially runners too. And runners, I kind of pair them like tennis players and maybe a couple other groups that they just like to run. Tennis players just like to play tennis. So strength training isn't usually a big part of their regimen of what they do. But that's just where it makes a big difference. And just to kind of highlight a few folks that came and worked with us, got stronger, and did really cool things for it. So we had a guy last year go on and run a 100-kilometer race after training with us, working with us for a little bit. 100-kilometer race, and I get tired thinking about driving that distance. And he went and ran it. Another gal got a lot stronger and went and did a half Ironman. Another gal did a Spartan race after getting stronger, just building up some back strength for her. And then another guy, this is more recently, has been just knocking out PRs, those 5Ks and 10Ks. And a lot of it just by getting stronger. And for me, just to give a little kind of background with me running, so a few years ago, my wife and I had this competition to see who could run the most miles in the year. And there was no like prize at the end of it. It's just bragging rights. So it's nothing like a good competition with no prize to get hurt doing it, right? So my knee pain got flared up because my wife ran further, and I got to go further than her. And I put every kind of Band-Aid I could on it. Got new shoes, took ibuprofen, stretched, iced, taped, rested, you named it. And the knee pain wouldn't go away. And then started really getting serious about, let's get stronger and see what that'll do. And then the knee pain's gone. And still doesn't bother me today. So that's whether it's recreationally or big distances or getting on the podium, like that's where getting stronger makes all the difference.
Did you win?
Yes. Thank you for asking. I was hoping somebody was going to ask. Just kidding. All right. So now just to kind of get into a little bit of demonstration. So think about first how the foot and the ankle and how the hip play a role in supporting the knee. So the knee follows the command of the foot and the ankle, or it follows the command of the hip, or it just follows wherever it leads. All right. So what that means, what that looks like. So If I stand here flat, you can see that my arch kind of drops down, right? Versus if I stand with my arch supported, my knee does different things. So if I let my foot collapse, you're going to see my knee kind of turn in. If I build that arch up, that knee wants to turn out a little bit. So it's subtle, but that movement is there. So in the same way, I'll put my shoe back on for this one, but if I'm letting my hips relax, then my knees are going to want to turn in. If I engage my glutes, my knees are going to want to turn out, right? And so it's subtle, but think about if every step that I take when I'm running, my arch collapses or my hip doesn't engage, my glutes don't engage, that knee's going to want to collapse, right? And that may not be a big deal, but if we're talking about that happening 2,000 times, 3,000 times, and that ground reaction force again, now it becomes a big deal, right? So imagine if we just held your knee like this, and I punch it 2,000 times, 3,000 times. It may not hurt the first few times, but after doing that over and over and over and over, that knee's going to start to get irritated, right? Especially if you say, well, now let's go do that again tomorrow. Let's go do that the next day. Those are all going to be those how that plays into the knee being irritated. All right? So then with that, let's see. Think of it like this to back up a little bit. Would you want to do push-ups for 30 minutes? Anybody? Never. No, I wouldn't either. Why not? Yeah, we just load up the arms way too much. But think about what we do for the leg for 30 minutes, right? Or 5 miles, 10 miles, whatever it might be. That's the same kind of demand that we're putting on that leg. While I get that the leg and the arm are different, it's still a big load that's going to be put through that leg. So that's the kind of the big idea that I want to just kind of hammer home. Like that's what's going on to load up that leg that you have to take care of to do running the right way. All right? Let me stay on track here. All right. What's that? Yeah, pun intended. Actually not, but we'll say that it was. Okay, anybody come here just to listen to me talk? Okay, I didn't either. So let's start doing some things, right? So first off, to see if you're ready to pass on to the next level, what were the first three cues? What are the three cues that we want to do? Toe down. Use out. Engage the core. All right. So for the first one, we'll start pretty simple and work our way up. The first one here, how about we'll get a volunteer to start us out? Anybody volunteer? All right. Come on down, Sonia. Okay. So the first one is going to be with the feet and the ankles, right? So I just showed you what that looks like, that it makes a big difference for that arch to be engaged for what the knee is going to do. And the idea with the knee is just for the knee being supported, being stable. So, Sonia, come on so they can see you. What we're going to do to start, and if we need to hold on to the wall or hold on to the post, we can do that. But just coming up on on the toes, bringing the heels up. So with that too, right, we want to press that toe down. The reason for that is that that's going to engage the muscles in the bottom of the foot. So now we've got a stronger arch because I'm not just contracting my calf, but I'm engaging the muscles in the bottom of my foot too. So what we can do with this one, a couple of different things. One, if there's no pain, feels good, then we can move on to the next one. But if there's pain or, hey, this is kind of hard or just doesn't feel right, then we want to stay on 2 feet, right? But the way that we progress to that from that is that then let's go to 1 foot, right? Because just like the next one that we'll do too, we're not going to be hopping as we run, right? We don't run like a frog. We run, again, that running is that single leg sport. So we have to be able to do that on 1 foot. And this one can be a little trickier. So even just a light hand on a post or on the wall can make a big difference. But think about it, if you're running 3 miles, 5 miles, 7 miles, 10 miles, how many of these guys can you do? And ideally, we're doing probably 30 or more of these, right? Before that calf starts to fatigue. Anybody want to take bets on how many Sonia can do? Just kidding. So let's see. Let's just do a few of these. So remember, big toes press down. You can engage those abdominal muscles. If that's easy on 2, then let's go to 1 and see, can you get to 30 on 1? And if you need to use a post so that it's not just a balance aspect too, that's fine. And remember, the idea behind this is to build up that foot strength, build up that calf. Think about it like this too. When you run, are you running and striking the front of your foot first or striking your heel first? Okay, perfect. So this will definitely play a big role with that. Yeah.
How would you say we're supposed to land running on all of our foot or on our heel?
My preference is the ball of the foot or flat. Whereas the heel, there's just that much more ground reaction force that is going through the joints. So when you run on the ball of the foot or flat, then there's more of that ground reaction force is absorbed through the muscles, right? So that if I strike this way, my calf is going to take a lot more of that versus I strike this way and my knee takes a lot of that. Mm-hmm. So that's why I like that better. But ultimately, it's kind of what you feel best with, right? And even what you've trained with. So let's say that you're going to do your triathlon tomorrow, and you normally heel strike. I wouldn't say start striking with the front of your foot tomorrow, just because it takes a little bit of getting used to. But I would say try training that way. And sometimes it might be just some variety that you go through during a race or during a run that you may not only heel strike or may not only front of the foot strike the whole time.
Right, there's a difference sometimes with like when you're on a descent.
Right.
How tired you are.
Exactly. Yeah, because as you start to get tired, it might change up how you're running. You might go to that heel strike because you don't have to wear out the muscles quite as much. Yep.
So when I'm thinking about my big toe, I'm kind of like bending my toes.
Press it down into your shoe. Not necessarily curling it, right?
I feel like that's what I
Yeah, so not necessarily like that, but think that you're just pressing that toe down.
Is it typical to have a little asymmetry in terms of which fatigues more?
It is.
Right-sided dominant?
I would say that it's pretty common, but ideally you work that out so that it's not that, right? Because running, I mean, it's not like you're going to take, well, I actually run mostly on my right leg, right? You're right. Yeah, so if you notice one side, I mean, that's a great question. If you notice one side's a little bit weaker, then I would say target that so that you can be more symmetrical.
Would you would you give the weaker leg more repetitions, or would you just give both the same chow and hope that they even themselves out? Yeah,
another good question. So I would probably, depending on what I was up for, right? If I'm getting ready to run a race or if I'm having any kind of issues, I'm probably going to load that weaker leg more. Another simple way to do it is I'm just going to make sure that I'm using my other leg more. For me, my bias is I favor my right leg. And so I notice as with different things that if I'm getting on the floor, I'm using almost all my right leg. When I'm getting up, I'm using almost all my right leg. If we're backpacking or hiking, my right leg takes that big step first, and trying to get to where I use my left leg more just in like normal activity.
Yeah. Makes sense. Do you think it's sometimes like if people are would that impact if somebody like has a tendency to stand on one leg more than another?
Yeah, for sure. Like
stronger the one you stand on more?
Absolutely. Yeah, because there's there's studies that show like they will test the strength of the contraction of the muscle And this is kind of maybe getting a little nerdy on things, but I think it's pretty fascinating that you hook up one of these bands and start doing exercises that are really hard with this leg, that the muscles in this leg that aren't even doing anything, they're just supporting me, they're actually contracting harder. So yeah, to answer that question, if I kind of hang out like this leg is working a lot harder, right? And especially for like moms or whatever, like you got your baby on your hip, however you would do that, right? Or, I don't know, this, for whatever reason, you might just, it's easier to stand like that, right? To shift the weight, hang on the muscles a little bit. Yeah, good question. Any other questions with that one? Anybody feel their calves burning?
Yes.
All right. This was the last thing I was going to say about it. So think about this. A really easy way to get these guys in is you're waiting on your coffee in the morning, maybe you're brushing your teeth, and there's tons of time when you're not doing anything, right? You're standing in line waiting on something. They just crank out some meal raises. Not the runner. Yeah. Hey, there's my people. You can do it in private too if you don't want to be in line, but just a really simple way to get that into the normal routine, right? All right. So thanks, Sonia. So the next one, got to volunteer for this one? It's kind of hard to volunteer for something you really don't know what it is. What's he going to make me do? All right. So for this one, Jen, so what we're going to look at first is just doing a squat. All right. So just squatting down, coming back up. So let's pay attention. Our toes down, our knees out. Yeah, nice deep squat. Is the core engaged?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, so that one's hard to tell. Thanks for your honesty. So think about that as we're doing squats, right? Especially if we've got a load on it. That's just an easy way to take a little bit more mileage out of just building up that core strength, right? Okay, so how about we'll go through maybe 5, maybe 10 squats. Just do them on your own. Think that toes down, my knees are out, that core is engaged, and I can just go down to whatever depth is good for me, right? I don't have to go crazy deep, but what I like to tell folks is that we want to be as strong as we can be and as much motion as we can be, right? So it's like the guy that's doing the bicep curl, and we'll say that we'll pretend like this is a 200-pound weight. That's what I normally work out with. And I'm just doing like this, right? Like this is my workout. Like what good is that going to do for anything, right? You need that full motion, that full strength in that full motion, all right? So the same idea with the squat too. All right, so how are we feeling with that? Knees out, toes down.
I find that it's hard to push my toes down when I'm going into a squat.
You want to go backwards?
No. I feel like I'm more flat, but I can like totally wiggle my toes right now. So
Okay.
should I
I'm having a hard time with the toes.
Not necessarily. Some of it can be too. Some of it can be related to the shoe. That if it's like your shoe. Yep. Yeah, so that can definitely change it up. And if it's a shoe that has more of a sole or a cushion to it, that can change it. So sometimes.
It's pretty easy in these shoes. These are like wide, flat shoes.
Yep, that's what mine are. Mine are wider, and they don't have that.
I found squatting
drop.
was a lot harder. Like, can't really do it when you're.
One thing, I feel like barefoot, doing a lot of stuff barefoot really helps. Like, or at least it helped me, like, even just striking and how you strike, and just running barefoot and
Yeah.
a bit of grass or something, or like doing
Yeah.
things that's not supported by your shoe.
Yeah. Yep. And I heard somebody say one time that working out with your running shoes on, especially if it's more of like the maximalist shoe, if we can call it that, right? That it's like doing a squat while you're standing on marshmallows. That it makes it a lot harder to really feel what your feet are doing because they're moving around so much, right? It's like, yeah, so like our balance pad here, if I do squats with that, especially with a load, like my feet are going to move around. And that could be the case too with a shoe with a thicker sole. Yeah. So I mean, most of the time, most of my workouts are in my basement, so I can be barefoot, right? I don't know that I want to hang out barefoot in the gym, but I like it for that because I can just control my foot. I can feel my foot, what I want it to do.
Get your gym socks, blind school once.
Yeah. We've got a few pairs of those laying around my house.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
So you have to have your toes flat then, like when you do the squatting, it
Yeah,
has to be flat.
it doesn't have to be, but that's going to be where you're going to have the most stability for your foot, for your ankle, for your knee, for your hip.
Just
Yeah.
because, I mean, I understand what she means earlier, because like the moment she squat, like you feel like, now I'm feeling like I'm
You want to go backwards.
go backwards.
Yeah, and that can be different things too, right? So that could play into if I don't have enough motion in my ankles, that I kind of get stiff that way, and it just forces me back, or I just don't have the strength, or it could just be the shoe, right? So it could just be just trying some of them without your shoes on too, which would be fine. So then,
What are your thoughts on like box, so for people that maybe don't have that strength or that like dynamic push from the bottom? Yeah, it's helpful to like train on the box, right?
yeah, absolutely, and that's a perfect segue to the progression of this one. So think of it too like this, that again, we're not running like a frog, right? So I mean, this is helpful to train with both feet, but we're running on one foot. So now that progression is going to be doing a pistol squat or a single leg squat. And so this is where a box could be really helpful, right? Where now I'm just going to come down and then come back up, right? Toes down, knees out, and that's going to be the movement, the exercise for that. All right, so why don't we try a few of those? The bench is pretty low, especially when, yeah. So feel free to use this guy. So as you're doing these, think like, can I keep my core engaged? Can I keep that toe pressed down? Can I keep my knee out? Can I control this movement? Can I feel some differences between the two? Yeah. It could be, yeah. That could play a role in it.
Question, why am I feeling it in my knees and not my muscles?
Think of it, if you sit back a little bit more, it might put more on the glutes and less on the quads, and not pull on the knees quite as much. And think of it too, like you got the bench behind you, just imagine that I'm aiming to just sit down, right? So that kind of forces more of that kind of normal movement rather than coming here, right? So here's the real kicker. This is where it gets really spicy. So there's a study that shows that this is for folks with an ACL reconstruction, that they are cleared to run after they can do 22 of these in under a minute.
22 of these?
Okay, all the way.
Yeah, so yeah. So think of it like a 90 degree angle in the knee. All right, so it's not necessarily going like all the way down. And if you think of it too, so that's going to be about 90 degrees there, right? But that's just something to aim for, right? So I can't stand pistol squats. Like they're the hardest leg workout I feel like you can do. Every once in a while I'll do them. Like if I've got a patient that I'm talking to about it, like they're going to ask, can you do that? I feel like I got to be able to say yes. So this morning I was doing my workout. I was like, oh, if I haven't done these in a while, somebody's going to ask, so I got to do it. And oh man, that was probably the hardest workout I've done for a while. But it's good. Like it builds up strength, right? And whole body strength. And if we want to be strong, you got to push yourself, right? So just something to think about. But here's something too. I don't want to deceive you and make you think that I'm a kung fu master. I learned this from my boys' martial arts class. So they say that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Yes, we got some other Kung Fu masters in here. So think of it like this, that if I can't control that movement, then I got to figure out how I can. Maybe that means I don't go as deep, or maybe it just means that I get a little extra support holding on to something, but I want to have that controlled movement. It does me no good if my knee's just all over the place and I'm going as deep as I can, and then I hurt my knee doing that, right? So think nice and controlled, toe down, knee out, core is engaged. Okay? All right. Thanks for the volunteering. All right, so now the next one. Do you have another volunteer for this one? Okay, come on down. So for this one, we're after the core now. All right, so we'll do it first, and then I'll tell you why. So you stay here. Don't run away. Let's see. I'll give you this guy. Any back issues?
No.
Okay. So with this one, what I want to do, actually what I want is, not Althea. Albrelli. Okay. What I want Albrelli to do, we're going to hold the weight in one hand, toes down, knees out, core is engaged, right? And now what we're going to do is just march. Actually, what we can do just to start is just walking in place, right? So that's going to be kind of that simplest form of it. And then if that's easy, if I can control that, the progression is going to be, now let's march in place, right? So what we're doing with this is that as I stand here, the weight wants to pull me down. So this part of my back has to work a whole lot harder, especially as I get off of one foot, right? So this part of my back is going to work a lot harder, and that's just going to keep the core, keep the back all the stronger for when I'm running, right? And then I can switch that up and do the other side too, right? Marching with the other side too. So feel free to grab some weights, grab the kettlebell if you'd like, and do a few of those. I'll explain to you why we're doing it.
Yeah.
So a couple patients recently, they actually both had knee pain, knee issues. One of them came for the knee issues, another one came for some back issues. So one of them was playing a round of 9 holes of golf, and his knee was bothering him, and asked him, well, how'd it go? And he said, my knee felt great after the first hole. Well, what did you do? Expecting that he's going to say, man, everything that you taught me just made all the difference. So he didn't say that at all. He said, I just braced my core and my knee pain didn't bother me. And so then the other gal, this was actually while we were working in here, she was doing some box step-ups. And so we were working with her back to build up strength with that. And she'd had ACL issues in the past, reconstruction, like years prior. And she'd always backed out of box work at her gym because of her knee. And so as we're doing it, I'm telling her, like, engage your core, brace that. If I'm going to punch you, that it's braced. And she does a box step up. She's like, that didn't hurt my knee. The idea behind that is, and I'll show you another progression of this, and then I'll tell you the idea behind it. Actually, I'll show it to you first. So if I do a lunge, so I'm here doing a lunge, and I'm just all over the place, like really unstable, that's a lot more work that has to go through my knee, right? So my knee has to work harder because my upper body is not braced, it's not controlled. Versus if I do a lunge and my upper body's nice and stiff, it's braced, now my knee doesn't have to do that same amount of work. It can just do what it needs to do while my back does what it needs to do. Does that make sense? So then that's what afforded both of them to not have pain playing golf or doing the box step-ups. So think, we can use a weight with it if it's controlled, right? If it's not controlled, then we have to get control first. But having a weight in the opposite hand of the leg that's going forward and doing a lunge that way and then coming back, right? And just another way to build up. So the lunge is obviously going to build up that leg strength. And then the weight in the opposite hand is going to build up that core strength too. So think I'm keeping a nice stiff spine as I'm doing that. Okay? And then you can switch hands and do the other side as well.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you do something like that, like, is it okay to like you have to make sure it's straight? Or you can do like this a little bit?
Yeah, I think it could just go with preference. I like to tell folks I'll train with different ways. Like sometimes we'll lean forward and reach with a lunge. Sometimes we'll just stay nice and tall and stiff. It's kind of just dependent on what you want to do with it. So ultimately, my answer is like variety is going to be the key for just being as strong as we can be.
As long as not bending too much.
No, you can bend your knee, yeah. Yeah, so you mean like, is it bad if my knee goes over my toe? Yeah, so no, it's not bad if your knee goes over your toe, as long as you've got the strength to support that, right? So your knee goes over your toe all the time. So think about next time you're going down the stairs, is my knee going in front of my toe, right? And chances are it is. When I sit down on a chair, is my knee going in front of my toe? Probably. The big thing would be not is my knee going in front of my toe, but more so are my knees staying outside? So think instead like to not worry about my knees going over my toes, but to think about my knees staying lined up with my second and third toes, right? And not coming in like that. So kind of the joke around is that the only time it's ever okay, and this is even questionable, for the knees to go in like this is when you're in line for the bathroom, right? Otherwise your knees need to stay out. Okay? All right. Any other questions with that? All right. Let's see what we got here next. How's everybody feeling with what we've done so far? I think we'll probably put them back. Time kind of got away.
Nice job, everybody.
Yeah, we can just get them later. It's fine. So any questions with any of the exercises? We'll kind of tie things up a little bit here. Okay. So there are 3 exercises, fairly basic, fairly simple, but they pack a huge punch if you're consistent and you do them well, right? And it make a huge difference for how you're running as well. All right. So who remembers the 3 cues?
Nose down, knees out, core in.
Yep. All right. How about the 3 bases that we cover? So different than the cues, the 3 bases that we cover. So we just did what? Strength. I heard somebody say strength. So strength training. And then what's the other 2? Motion, movement. Third one? Tissue. All right. So we just looked at strength today, right? And obviously you're going to have some motion with that, but primarily just looking at strength. So think about it like this, if we can really focus on strength, without a doubt, it's going to make a big difference, right? But to get that whole kind of rounded picture, we need to focus on motion and we need to focus on just the tissue as well. But without a doubt, you focus on strength training and things will make a difference for your running, without a doubt. But think of it like this, like most likely you didn't come here because you wanted to show off how great your calves are or how great your pistol squats are, right? You came here because there's some kind of issue or somewhere that you want to go that you're not quite there yet. And so a couple of simple questions that I want you to think about is, what if this issue that brought you here, you don't do anything about it? We'll call this kind of the dark cloud that we look at. If you don't do anything about this, what does this look like this summer? What does this look like next year? What does this look like 5 years from now? And related to running, does that mean like, well, now my back's bothering me so much, I just guess I'm going to stop running. Running's not for me anymore, or whatever it might be. The way I like to look at things a lot more so is to think like, now we've got the sunshine on us, and think of it in the opposite picture. What if I do something about this? Where could I go in this summer? Where could I go in 5 years? Where could I go in 10 years? Think of it like the folks I talked about before. Maybe it's a big race, like a 100-kilometer race. Maybe it's a half Ironman. Maybe it's just, hey, I feel good just going on runs with my friends, with my kids, with whoever, right? That is what allows you to do that. Like, so if we address that issue, what does that look like? All right. Okay, so now we get to kind of the fun part. I mean, hopefully it's all been fun, right? But now it's like the fun part where you don't have to do anything. So I'm going to call it our goodie table. We've got a lot of really sweet things, as Catalina is displaying for you. Thank you. So we've had a lot of just generous folks. So Protein Puck, let's see, grab a couple of Cameron's water bottle's not part of that. Grab a couple of Protein Pucks on the way out. If you haven't had one, they're tasty and they're packed with protein. And if you know anything about protein, you gotta have it if you're going to be getting stronger, right? A quick little caveat about protein and strength training, that if you're strength training and you're not getting protein, you're in essence just shooting yourself in the foot every time you go and get stronger, try to go and get stronger. Because when muscles are broken down with strength training, they need protein to get built back up so you can get stronger. If they don't have that protein, your body is going to break down muscle in other parts of your body to give the muscle that you just worked what it needs. So great, let me go build up my legs, and then I lose strength in my back or lose strength in my arms or anywhere else or my other leg because I don't have enough protein in me. So Protein Puck is a great way to do that, and they're local and just a great company. So grab a couple Protein Pucks on your way out. Fleet Feet donated, we'll call it kind of their goodie bag. So for our volunteers, you get to grab first what you like, and if anybody else wants to grab stuff that you like, have at it, but volunteers get first dibs. Next, we've got the Ultra shoes. Yeah, so we can draw from that. Does everybody have a name in here? All right, so we'll draw from that. And then we don't get out of here yet because we have a couple other things too. I'll keep my eyes not looking. Stray Nichols, what do you know? Man, I never win these things. Just kidding, we got Julie. Yeah. So Julie is our winner. Yeah, what kind of guy is this? I don't want to listen to anything he has to say anymore. It's a cheater. So Julie, congratulations. So we'll get that squared away, get you connected with. Yeah. And then a couple other things. So on the table too, we've got a wellness scorecard that we put together. So that's just an easy way to kind of track a number of different things that you could have going on, just a way to test yourself and see, am I setting things right? Sleep, protein, stress, all kinds of different things to test to see, am I setting myself up as best as I can for success? All right. The next thing, we got all kinds of goodies for y'all today. It'll probably just take like another 20 minutes to go through the list. So the next thing is our t-shirt. And they're, obviously I'm biased, but I think they're probably the coolest t-shirts around. It's got a jackalope on it, because everybody knows jackalopes are fast, right? Not that one. It's on the piece of paper there. So you can sign up for that one. So they're $25. You can just put your name, make sure you put your size and a phone number that I can read. We had somebody last time give us a phone number that we couldn't read, and so well, your t-shirt's still sitting here. So just make sure that's legible if you like a t-shirt. What else? We got a couple stickers. We got some stickers if you want to slap on a water bottle. And then lastly, kind of the grand finale. So if you know, like, hey, I do have an issue. I want to get this squared away. I want to get this taken care of. So we're offering our evals for $99. And that's going to be 90 minutes of working with myself or with Christy. So that's better than, that's like $1 a minute for that service. So pretty sweet deal.
Sushi dinner out, and that lasts a lot longer than.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you'll forget about the sushi dinner in an hour or two.
Sushi if you don't do the race.
Right.
So just a great way to kind of set up like, hey, I want to get this taken care of. I've got this that's on my bucket list, my goal. This is where I want to be. So we've got 5 spots for that. And that offer will be over come next Friday. All right. So that'll give the North Park folks a chance to do that too. If that's an interest for you, just talk to me or talk to Christy before you leave and we can get you squared away with that. Or if you're just not sure yet, grab one of our cards just behind my computer there. Grab one of our cards and just give us a call, next week or two. Yeah. So that being said, we've got 15 more seconds. How about that for timing? Nailed that one. No, but really, totally joking. Like yeah, let's not hustle it. If there are any questions, like we're hanging out for a little bit to pack up anyways, just feel free to come up and chat with us. Or any other time that we're here, just pop in and run a question by us, and happy to help you out. We are here to help people. So whether that's preventative or catching a problem that's come up, like we want to help you. We're here for you. Yeah. But thanks a bunch for coming. Y'all are a fun group. I had a bunch of fun with it. Yeah. Did you have a question, Julie?
Done perfectly one more time.
Perfectly. I think you got to talk to John about that. I'll do my best with it. So I've got a good excuse. My legs are tired. I'll see what I can do. So think that toes down, that knees out. We're going down. Just kidding. And then we're coming back up. Thank you. Thank you. No, you can. You can. I wasn't born doing that, believe it or not. But yeah, I mean, you put time into it. I'll say probably maybe 5 years ago or so, I was just trying to get better at squats, and I would get into a deep squat and I would just dump over backwards. My squats were terrible. And I worked at it. And I started where I would just hold on to the leg post of the table and just hang out like that. And so then it just takes effort, right? And you put effort towards something that's important and you can make changes for it. Yeah.
Okay, so 22 and 1 minute for 90 degree angles are new verticals, right? 30 calf raises, single calf raises.
Yeah.
And this really not time.
Yeah.
Okay. And then probably 5 each leg.
Yeah. And I mean, think about it too.
I
Yeah.
think like to your point of just like strength training, like I have seen over having kids and running a bunch and like, doing long distance short, so like I have never felt so good as when in terms of reduced injuries or anything. Like it's so helpful, even if you're just like doing dishes and you put like a chair under you or something and you're just doing something on the side like that, training.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Yeah. So I'm getting ready to turn 42 and didn't really get serious about strength training probably in the last like 5 years or so. And, through college, after college, just running and biking, and strengthening was just run farther, run faster, bike farther, bike faster. That was strengthening. And now I feel way better, way stronger doing all that than when I was 22, 25. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I mean, that's a big difference, right? 42 to 25, definitely 42 to 32. I feel stronger now. But that just makes a big difference, right? That strength training is a big deal. And if you take it serious now, like there's huge benefits for it now. But then even as you think about, well, what does 52 look like? What does 62 look like? What does 72 look like? Like I don't want to not be as active as I can be and doing the things that I like to do. So it's got its exactly. Yeah. My boys are getting bigger and they're starting to think like, hey, maybe we can take dad. And I want to be when they're in their 20s and think like, I don't know if I can take dad still. Yeah. Like bring it, boys. Yeah. Yeah, but strength training makes a huge difference. Yeah. Yeah, so grab the goodies here. If you got questions, hang out.
First year.